sitting here drinking shitty Dunkin' Donuts coffee because I forgot my Viking coffee at home. It's part of my daily ritual, my Viking coffee, made by Evan Armstrong, Viking Coffee Co. Old man strength coffee, that's our brew of choice. It's the brew that Evan put together for the show, and I forgot it at home today, so now I'm drinking this horrible, thin, watery Dunkin' Donuts coffee. It's my own damn fault. I should have known better. But the rest of you can all enjoy delicious, smooth Viking coffee at vikingcoffeeco.com. If you use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout, you'll receive 10% off. Check out Old Man Strength. Check out the rest of his brews. Every one of them is fantastic. I highly recommend. Give him a shout. Cerberus-strength.us. Cerberus Strength is doing everything they can to keep you healthy and strong. Their wraps, sleeves, knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, they're all fantastic. You see them all over Strongman, and I want to see them all over Highland Games. They're starting to pop up, and I'm digging it. I'm telling you guys, 17 years on the pro circuit, I understand the bumps and bruises you're going through. Cerberus can help you out with that. They can help out with your training too. Their straps are fantastic. They've even got smelling salts. So, like, if you powerlifters out there are into doing like the smelling salts, I'm too much of a pussy to do those kinds of things, but I understand it's a big deal in strongman and powerlifting. And Cerberus has the best stuff around. They have stuff that will just peel your flesh right off your skin. It's so powerful. So they've got 3 different variations on the smelling salts. Give them a shout. Check them out. Whatever you need for your strength journey. Use the code RefinedSavage10 for 10% off at Cerberus-strength.us. Warrior CBD is doing it right. I just talked to Nancy the other day. They are making moves. You have to give them a holler right now through their DMs on Instagram. And the reason for that is because they're having problems with suppliers because they're doing so well. They're putting way too much product through, and they're trying to find a supplier that can meet their needs. So get a hold of them on Instagram. WarriorCBDofficial.com is the website, but get a hold of them on Instagram. Nancy will be the one who answers the DM. Tell them what you want. Give them the code WARRIOR20 off, and you will get 20% off whatever you decide to order. I use the 1,000 milligram CBD non-flavored. I like the non-flavored the best. My mother uses it for her dog. That stuff really works well. So if you have a dog who freaks out at thunderstorms, this is the product for you. Give them a shout. The good people at Serious Steel. I love these guys, man. They are doing it right. They are the kind of people I want to work with. They are a company that is an all-purpose company for everything you want for your home gym, for your commercial gym, for your CrossFit box, for your warehouse gym, for your school gym, whatever you need, these guys have it. Everything from kettlebells to plates to dumbbells to bars, stone sleeves. I love their stone sleeves. Very cool. You don't get the gross burns on your arm, and you have to worry about having to get tacky off your skin every time. Really good products. Even better people. Check them out. SeriousSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Deep in Bozeman, Montana is where Stay Classy Meats is at. These guys are killing the game when it comes to humanely processed and just the best meats around. I am so close to finishing the box they sent me, and I am not due for another shipment for a while. That's my own damn fault because I eat too much. But they are the best when it comes to the meat delivery services out there. You have to check these guys out. Their bison is out of control. I just love their bison steaks. Some of the best stuff out there. And you know that if you're going to be a carnivore like me, you want to make sure the animals are treated humanely and fairly, and they're not shipped across the country. These guys have all their farms in Bozeman, Montana. All the meat's coming locally and then shipped directly to you. No hormones, humanely treated. It's just the best around. StayClassyMeats.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. And finally today, Midwest Best Grooming, MWBGroomingCo.com. Fred Lozano's company here in Lorain, Ohio. He is putting together the best beard balms, the best beard oils, hand lotions, lip balms, anything you could need, he's got it for you. Give them a shout and use the code SAVAGE20. 20% off at checkout. Today on the show, we have the amazing, the talented, the powerful James Carsey, the strength coach at the University of Miami here in Ohio. That's not the problem school down South Florida, where everybody's getting arrested and doing coke and, hanging out with strippers. This is a whole different University of Miami. James is doing some amazing stuff, and this was an incredible podcast. I am 100% sure you're going to learn something from this podcast. We really got along well. I think we were of like mind on a lot of subjects. Check this out. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And as always, I'll see you at the end. Coach Carsey, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I was amazed coming down here. I thought Google Maps was screwing with me because I'm coming in, there's like nothing anywhere. And then all of a sudden it just opens up into this incredible campus. It's amazing. Beautiful.
Yeah. Most of our athletes feel the same way. I mean, recruits, when we get in here, they come out of nowhere. There's this huge university, 16,000, 18,000 kids that are in the middle of a cornfield. That's essentially what.
Yeah, I mean, there was a deer like standing in the middle of the road, not 400 yards from where it opened up into the campus. So,
definitely, yeah.
We're at the University of Miami, Ohio, here in Oxford, right?
Yep,
yeah.
Oxford.
So let's talk a little bit about. You're the head strength and conditioning coach down here, or what's your exact title?
My official title is nice and long. It's Assistant Athletic Director of Human Performance.
I love the human performance. That's always the good tagline.
Yeah, we made a change. When I came back, I call this my second tour of duty here. I was here from 01 to just before about half of 11. Then I was out and then came back. I was asked to come back, so I must have did something right.
Sure, yeah.
But I got in a spot where from a standpoint of being a strength conditioning coach versus we've tied now, which we could probably get into a talk on this and it'll go forever. But the reality is we came together with sports medicine, and Doc Daly, who is our head physician, we'd been kind of chomping the bit back when I was here the first time, and we were kind of skirting the edge with it. And so we tied sports medicine and strength conditioning together. And so now it's human performance and wellness. And that's kind of where we're at. So
I like when, strength coaches, we tend to be looked at, and I consider myself a strength coach, even though I do it privately. There's this meathead stigma to it, and I think that's the general populace that sees it, and probably a lot of the coaches that you start off dealing with before they get to know you, like, oh, here's a guy who comes to work in shorts every day, and but linking it to the medical side of it and being knowledgeable enough to know what you know and know what you don't know and put those two things together and get some help. Yeah. That's got to be a big help when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to getting coaches to buy in and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, really the change happened for us. It's even bigger than that. I mean, really for us, I've always felt, now I started my whole career up through the coaching ranks. Strength conditioning was part of it, which could be a whole nother talk, but I did stuff in the high school level at football and wrestling and those things, and so everything I do from strength conditioning comes from a athletic mentality,
right?
Versus some people come from a powerlifting or Olympic lifting background. So not that I don't like those, it's just they're not my passion. Mm-hmm. So, but we were just in a spot. I've always felt that the strength conditioning world, and I'm going to probably have a bunch of people who are going to have one side that's going to be happy about it when I say this, the other side is going to be upset about it. I've always felt that the model has been wrong in its setup when you start talking from an athletic standpoint. And we've always tried to get to this point of a cohesiveness, I think, and I know why it happened. I mean, strength coaches get put in with coaching, and so they become part of the coaching world. There's a little bit of higher chance of maybe making a little more money if you tie a coach to your name versus if you tied yourself to athletic training on the other side of it. But it never made sense to me why my sports medicine and strength coaches would be at war with each other.
Sure.
Now, there is a process of that we should be pulling each other, because trainers want to always go a little softer. I always tell my trainers, you can't be soft on me. And we always want to go a little meatheadish, right, on the other side of it. And between the two of us, we should be working. And there's always these silos that were put up. And you were in your world and they were in theirs. And it was just never crossed over. And in my mind, it was very holistic in its nature. Because I need them to be able to do things to get kids back into it. And then on their side, they need us to hold them at a certain rate and push at a certain rate and get the kids going towards something. So that's kind of how it got to be. I'm blessed that I have a team doctor who's an ex-football player, and so he has a mindset, and not that it couldn't have been any other sport, but he fights with himself. On one side, he wants to be really hard-nosed, and then there's other times he's like, no, I can't do that because I need the doctor-physician side of it too. And so he has a great balance between the both worlds, and so it was the right time to do it. Yeah,
that's I've worked at a couple places, public schools, high schools, and stuff like that. And the best time I ever had is when the athletic whatever they're called, athletic trainer was on board with me, and we could work together. And you're doing them a service too, because if you do things correctly, you're not sending them shoulder injuries and ankle injuries all the time.
Yeah, and they don't want to be run in the ground. I mean, they do a bunch of stuff too. The other part of it came to it was, now I think the model maybe of the strength coach being tied to athletic, well, I think I'll step that back a little bit too, but I'll say the model really ran off of the Power Five. When you start talking Power Five conferences, where there's a lot more money, there's a lot more able to, they have their own athletic departments. I mean, most football oriented at these big schools look like their own athletic department with inside an athletic department. Where our side of it, when you start talking at a mid-major, we want to compete at a high level, but we don't have the budgetary set up to that. We can't afford the turnover, and we'll end up with huge turnover set up from a standpoint of when I came back here, our basketball program had like 4 strength coaches in 4 years.
Wow!
Like, you can't build continuity, you can't build a path, because they're learning new. Not that maybe we're all different, but every strength coach is going to come at it a different way. One is a very heavy Olympic person. The guy I came in behind was a huge Olympic kind of set up to it. I like Olympics and I use them, but I don't think they're the save-all either for us, right? There's a high technicality with it. And so at that moment, the kids are getting a bunch of stuff. And so our side of it was to try to change that model to a thought process of, I have an athlete standing in front of me. I get 4 years. I'm a coach. I'm a teacher. Just like a professor would be. We need to get them going in the right direction. And we've been really blessed in this last year and a half, 2 years, that we've really made some big changes. But that was one of the things. We had to come in and we just changed the model. I threw it out there. Administration kind of bought onto it and liked it, and now we have a lot of say. It gives us some stability. Every time a coach leaves, every 2 to 3 years, the coach leaves, we're not getting yanked out or fired or set off from it. So
well, first of all, when it's interesting you say that about the Olympic lifting. I've never been a fan. Olympic lifting to watch is one of my favorite things. The Olympics comes on, I want to watch the Olympic weightlifting. I have a hard time implementing it in with athletes who are already having to deal with the technicalities of their sport. And then now I'm trying to teach them how to snatch on top of that. And it to me, there's a lot more ways to get a similar bang for your buck than to have them do the Olympic lifts and throw this on top of them. So it's interesting that you say that. Are you more of a med ball jumping type guy, or what's your outlook on developing explosive power for athletes? Because I think we're in agreement that Olympic lifting is maybe an unnecessary amount of technique involved.
We use a variation. I used to tell people if I thought eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches 12 times a day was what's going to win a championship, I'd probably find a way to do that. So when I come to our process, I'm a huge compound or complex guy. With that allows me to do a lot of things. I think I love to load a heavy loaded position that's static, and then go make them do hurdle hops, or make them do a short burst sprint, or quick sled drag.
Some Werner Gunther type stuff.
Yeah, so definitely back that way.
Yeah.
That was a big influence for me. And
I think that video influenced a lot of people.
Yeah, and the thought process made a lot of sense to me as an athlete. And so I dug into a lot of that, and that was my side of it. Olympic lifting, I use variations of it. I know everybody complains that, well, if you don't get the catch, you don't get the plyometric of the, the eccentric load and reverting it back. I got into doing a lot of high pulls, let them drop the weight from up top. Didn't worry about the catch. A lot of my kids will have some kind of shoulder wrist, and we'll progress to it. It may take me a couple of years to progress with some of these kids. So we do variations of jumps, deadlift jumps, load of stuff. We went to the point where we've got the open-ended deadlift bar, so we're able to So we're able to do a wide variety of things in tight and kind of keep it closer. And so to sit here and tell you I have one side or the other, no. I don't teach. The snatch is easier to teach than the clean. I think the position of it, but sometimes my kids can't handle that position.
Right.
So it's really on variations. I really love doing we spend tons of times with learning to pick from the floor, drive through the floor, and getting height.
Yeah.
So we may do that in jump shrugs. We may do that in some high pull variation before we even worry about the catch. And the catch is, it is what it is. You had to have a standard for Olympic lifting. That was what it needed to be. I don't know that I need it for all my athletes.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Your weight room is super impressive. Do you have several weight rooms on campus, or is this the main one?
We have 3 now. We're incredibly blessed. At one point, this weight room was for all our athletes. Mm-hmm. So when I was here first, it had just finished up. Dan Dalrymple was the head strength coach, and I was coming as assistant for him. And we ran all 530, 540 athletes through this weight room. Wow. This place, we called it Club Gross. It was always rocking, right?
Yeah,
so it was we would start at 5:30 in the morning and be done at 8 at night, kind of thing. And then the weight room down at football has been open for, this will be its 3rd year. So I came back in 16, and it opened up in that January 17. So we got 10,000 here in the gross. We got about 8,500, plus we have the indoor tied to it down there. And then we have a hockey weight room across in our hockey facility, and that's probably another 2,200. So as facilities, I can't complain. We have a bunch of really great setups.
And then how many staff do you have underneath you?
Staff total, counting myself, there's 6 of us now.
Okay, so that's
it's still
a lot of athletes for 6 guys. Yeah,
we're working towards it, and what's really great, again, me complaining about it, and then versus me having a doctor and having a support group that we're not complaining, we're telling you the realities of what can we do, and we're trying to build. Like, our big thing right now is we're trying to get a full-time nutritionist.
Oh, yeah.
We've been blessed that we have a part-time sports psychologist and a full-time clinical psychologist, because that's been part of our whole model.
It's a huge benefit.
Setup.
Yeah.
So these are things, and we lay these things out, and we'll probably start them as intern spots, and then try to build them into full-time positions. So yeah.
I noticed you have an Atlas stone out here.
I do.
I'm always finding those.
For most of our football guys, we have a couple of them down there. They'll pick them up. Our baseball guys like to get after it. Basketball guys stare at it.
Right.
They're not over the top excited about lifting it up.
Right.
So it's more for us old strength guys.
Right.
Here, we'll pick it up.
What's it weigh? Do you know?
That one there's probably 225.
Say it's sizable. Yeah.
It's got decent. It's not. It's. I don't think I've ever put it up on the scale and weighed it.
Right. Yeah.
It was here when I got back here. So
I like them because I've found I've liked them for athletes because you get the same, hip extension and explosion that you do with the clean, but I don't have to worry about catching anything. It's just up to the shoulder and then put it back down.
I find with our kids, most of them just do not have the hand and forearm strength to get under and control it, and it just rolls back and forth on them. And most of the time, they're strong enough to lift the weight. It just skims back and forth, and they never really get it off the ground. And that in itself can sometimes be a nice motivator for them.
Oh, yeah. It's always fun to have toys like that laying around too, and get that going.
Well, we have to do big meathead strong guy stuff every once in a while. You
Yeah,
have to do
yeah.
that. It's part of our nature. So.
And you're also going to get kids in here that are going to be just like us, and they're
Yes.
going to probably get away from football or hockey or whatever, and just realize that this is what they actually love. And
Yeah, well, we got kids that go into it. It's pretty. That's probably the biggest thing in my years of doing this. I didn't realize how many kids found their passion to actually get in the field. And then they'd ask you about the field, and I said, "Are you sure this is what you want? Because there's going to be a lot of hours, a lot of not a love, people not caring about you, all for that one moment that they do."
yeah,
I said, "But if you're passionate about it, I'll help you."
and I don't know how. I'm sure we'll get into your career here, but I'm not sure how much you've had to deal with it. But it seems to me that if you're a strength coach, you're always on the verge of being fired.
Yes.
And it's not even going to be your fault, because the head football coach is going to get fired. He's going to want to bring his own guy in.
Yeah, and that was a lot of the change that we had. That's essentially what happened to me my first time going around. I came in as assistant under Dan Darble. He took a head job with the Saints.
Oh, we just had Ryan Fanley on the other day,
Yes,
so I think he was
Ryan
down there.
one of my assistants.
Okay.
As we came into it, by the way, I'll give him a shout out. Incredibly smart guy.
Really smart guy, and
Yeah.
quite a character.
Yeah, he is. I had to put up with it daily. Trust me.
I had such a good time interviewing him.
Yeah, he's a big child, as we always called him. Very smart child, but
Yes,
big
very,
child.
very smart child.
No, we were in that process of I had a football coach come in after they had released the one before him, and I can't tell you exactly how bad it was, but it was bad enough to the point that within about a year and a half he got me fired, and I was out the door and going into another career, or chasing the private sector for a while. So.
Yeah. Well, it's always somebody else's fault, that can never. And I think, and you kind of touched on it earlier, that there's so many different directions or so many different paths to get you to the same outcome.
Yes.
When I was younger, I would have looked at other strength coaches, and whether it was out of jealousy or out of thinking how smart I was, that, oh, this guy is the best, he's going to be the best, he's going to get you where you're going, and this guy sucks and he's horrible. And the reality of it is, all this stuff works, especially when you get to the level you're at and you've gone through the rigors and you've gone through the educational process. And you look at a school like, and I don't know who the strength coach at, say, Alabama is, but my guess is he's not that much better than anybody else at one of these Division I schools. You just have different paths, and Alabama gets the best athletes you could possibly hope for, where here at Miami you might get some really good athletes from Ohio and Indiana and surrounding places.
Yeah. I always put that. I always think when you're at the very, very top of the pinnacle, I mean, a lot of times you have really great athletes. You just don't hurt them.
Yeah.
You keep them durable and you keep them practicing and playing. We always joke about it, calling we've used Alabama and some of our things we call the Alabama protocol, or the variants for them, because they may have Billy here, and Billy goes down, and Bubba walks in behind him, and he's the same as Billy.
Yeah.
He was just waiting until Billy graduated, or work his way out. And so, for most of them, they're not even graduating; they're probably just going right to the NFL, right? Ours is, we may have one Billy-like kid, right, and then the drop-off is real behind it. And so, a lot of times, durability side of it and keeping them healthy is such a huge part of ours. Football for us this next year, I mean, our schedule is, our first 4 games are going to be incredibly hard,
Right.
A little respite, but you end up with Iowa, you end up with Ohio State, you end up with UC, which is our big rival, who's playing really well right now. And then, we have a Tennessee Tech in there in the middle of that, and they're going to throw everything they can at you, because they're getting a chance to play up, right? So at that point, where your first 4 games, a lot can happen in that. Yeah. And then we started rolling our MAC. We played our first game against Buffalo, who won the whole thing, right? Now I realize that some of their guys are gone, but we're going to be athletic.
Program, yeah.
And so at our side of it, we have to be in a spot of, can we come out of that? Yeah, we'd love to take 1 or 2 of those, get good. It'd be great if we came out 2-2 coming out of that, right?
Sure.
And you're shooting for it, you're telling the kids that, but the reality of it is I want to come out of the first 4 games healthy.
Yeah.
Because conference is going to be everything for us. We've been on the verge of winning the last couple of years, the conference getting back into it. We have a historic history in that. But the reality is durability. Can I keep that kid out there? And I can't have my Billy going down, right? I got to keep him pretty active.
Bubba's not quite as good.
Yeah, and so, not that the other kid won't be good.
Right.
It's going to take him a few years,
You're developing him.
Exactly. So that's kind of how we look at that. And from a standpoint in the mid-major, that's what you really are working to. We have to grow some guys into positions to play. And I don't think that's anything unlike if you're in Division II, you're in Division III.
Sure.
That process of they were athletic, but there was always something. They were off 20, 30 pounds right here. Their height's a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
We got some really fast, explosive guys in our sports, in a lot of our sports, who if they were 6 inches taller, we don't have them, right?
Yeah, sure.
So we've got to find ways that if they were 30 pounds heavier, we don't have them. And so we're having to build that and be consistent at it. So
it might be. I look at that though as maybe it's more rewarding. And never having done it, either position, I think I might enjoy being a strength coach at Miami of Ohio versus even what Joe Ken or Buddy Morris have to go through, because I think at that level, I mean, they're the pinnacle, right? Those two guys are the best of the best. What are they dealing with though now? Are they just basically just making sure these guys don't get hurt? You can't go up and tell one of these, and I don't know one pro football player from another, but I'm guessing they're not going in and saying, hey, let's squat 500 pounds today and try to build you up. That's not. No,
well, they've hit their peak. I mean, these guys are already in the top 1% of all players. As they're sent to it. You're also, I think, the biggest variance that you're not seeing in college. College, you're still in a window of an 18 to a 21, 22-year-old guy. There, you're sitting in a window of 21 to 40.
Yeah,
right. A little bit more. Me being in my 40s, I know what my knees feel like and what I don't do anymore.
Right.
Versus what you would do that, let alone I'm still having to play against all these guys and still be at a high level. And they're very skill-oriented at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's so amazing to watch them move. And so I think a lot of those things, when you start looking at it, is just the rehab recovery. And they're gone at certain times of the year, and they're training with their trainer,
with their own
facility
people,
at
sure.
it. So I mean, I'm more worried about, because what I love about the college setting is we're a collective going towards a purpose and a point.
Yeah.
Not that they're not there, but it's a job.
It's a job now, right?
It's a business. It's entertainment. There's a lot that goes into the showmanship of it.
Yep.
So they're going to do it, and they're coming from such a wide variety of backgrounds. They're having to learn stuff. Dan and I, we used to talk about this all the time. Before he had left, we'd be like, we'd never want a professional job. And then when he got it, I always laughed at him about it. But the process was, because of that, we weren't sure where that window or door of opportunity was. I mean, how do I invest in this person? I don't know. And him coming back has really opened my eyes on things that, some guys just had some serious deficiencies and things. He said, I never realized. He said they were just so good athletically.
Yeah.
And that allowed him a chance to try to help change some of those patterns for them, to give them a longer career.
Right.
It's about money, so they'll listen at that point if you can show them a little longer career.
And is he here now? Is he back now? Is he still with the Saints?
No, he's still with the Saints.
Still with the Saints, okay.
Yeah.
Ryan was telling me some incredible stories about him, that he was a freak himself in the weight room. And
he'd do things that, we get on practice and trying to do dumb, stupid, strong stuff. And I mean, there'd be a kid over there power cleaning 200 pounds, and was really not doing a very good job, half-assed, and then he'd walk over there and one-arm snatch it.
Right.
And look at him and talk to him the whole time while he's holding over his head. And then slam it down and say, you need to step up a little bit more.
Right.
And the kid's eyes just kind of pop out of the head. And he said, it made you work harder, And so, we all have those little moments where we do things.
Right.
Throw something out there. The kids, don't realize. And then you walk back in the office later and you're like, oh, crap, I shouldn't have done that.
You got that reverse
But I can't let them see it.
Yeah, there's always some benefit to having a little street cred,
Yeah. That's all I do now. I tell everybody, I try to make everything look like they have to stop and think, he might be able to take me.
Right.
That's all I want him to do. I want him to think he might be able to take me.
A little bit of intimidation factor. Yeah. What's your background athletically? Like, what was sports like in school? And
well, I grew up in kind of farmland. My grandfather had a small farm.
You from Ohio?
Yeah, from Ohio, Central Ohio. I grew up in Marysville.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, but both my father and my grandfather worked for General Motors for 30 plus years.
Yep.
And grandfather did a little farming on the side. And so, I mean, I grew up in that, working on farms. So, I mean, I was power cleaning and snatching every day and didn't realize it.
Just like the
AO
Atlas Stones.
And carrying stuff, right? Yeah, you're doing it. And so it was just one of those deals. Went from there. I started off playing the first two sports I really got into big was baseball and wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I started wrestling when I was about third grade. I started doing little small stuff and just kind of grew from there. Football ended up happening in junior high. I mean, I grew up, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so it wasn't one of those deals where I was going to go join Pop Warner, and it wasn't like that big of a deal. And it was a 8-mile, 10-mile trek into town, and you know, when you're growing up originally, I mean, my parents had one car and that kind of stuff, and then so that stuff just didn't happen for me until I went through school. But then I went from there, and I stuck with wrestling all the way through high school. Football. Track and field. I won't lie. I originally got in track and field because of the girls. You got to travel on the same bus.
Sure,
I got to see that. And then I started realizing in my later years that it made sense for the sports that I was doing.
Right.
Get to that. I tried, when I was in high school, I tried to do 4 sports. So I tried to do track and baseball at the same time, but that wasn't happening in time frame wise. So I was a 3-sport athlete, then ended up going to college, went to Ashland University, and was a defensive lineman. Played football for 4.5 years, the classic model, the red shirt year, and then play. And then, like everyone else, you try to take a shot at something, see if I get to the professional level, but they're really, really, really good. And I think I was good, but not the really, 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 really good.
Well, we released at the 1%ers, you know.
Yeah, and and I was coming off of an ACL that I had played on. So it was just those deals, you got into that, and I had always just, coaching was interesting, and people had always said I was pretty good at speaking and putting stuff in the right perspective for people, and I like the training side of it. I always loved the process of all the work that went in the day of competition.
Yes, right.
And I enjoyed the grind, and so strength conditioning kind of came natural. And I mean, I grew up reading Muscle and Fitness. That's where I got my information. All us old dogs. That's how we got our information, and the insane workouts that were in there that only if you had a little bit of vitamin S were you ever going to be able to accomplish that, right? And so that was kind of my process, and then I got farther and farther into it, and started actually reading and getting into some general stuff that were out there, and starting to find out that there's a bigger world. What all the Russians and the Germans were doing, and kind of our progression from there, and then I ended up being GA back at Ashland. Well, I was blessed my last couple of years of college. Judd Logan came in and become the track and be a throws coach. Just a wealth of knowledge. I really put him as one of my first really big mentors in this. More than he even realized it, Judd would just, you walk in and he exudes a presence in the weight room.
Yep.
That whatever you're doing, you better elevate it by about another 20%, right?
Yep.
And then he would just, I'd pick his brain, little stuff, and I wouldn't over the top, and hey, what are we doing? How are you doing that? Well, this is what I'm doing. He was so aggressive about it, and then you just, glean it. I didn't try to overwork him. I just get information and glean it.
He is a recurring theme on this show. So we've had so many Ashland people on the show because his web just shoots out these people all over the place. And Malcolm Majeski, who's the strength coach there now, actually was the one who put me in touch with you. Judd was one of my mentors growing up. And again, I don't think he realized how much my limited time, I mean, I went down there for about 2 years where I would just go down and be a fly on the wall. Yeah. And how many different people, whether it's track or strength and conditioning, he's inspired over the years is just phenomenal. And he's actually coming back on the podcast, I think, in 2 or 3 weeks to talk about he's had such a crazy year, with the 2 national championships and the cancer scare, and his mom just fell down the stairs, and she's, so I'm looking forward to that. But being at Ashland had to have been, it's got to be a great stepping stone for you.
Yeah, well, there's so many reasons there, and I didn't realize at the time. Coming out, and I probably, if I looking back, I was a good football player. I was a much better wrestler. Probably should have went in the realms of wrestling. Mm-hmm. But how I ended up there, the whole process was I was a classic model that fell in between one, recruiting is a whole lot different than it is now. No
Yeah,
one gets
right.
falls through the cracks.
Right.
Back then, you had to make all your own tapes and send them to places.
Yeah,
If you
VHS
weren't
tapes.
if you weren't at
Right.
a major school, you weren't getting looked at.
Yeah.
So my side of it, I kind of got in that process. I fell in between. I was about 20, 25 pounds lighter, and a lot of it because of wrestling. I always dropped down to 189,
Yeah.
out of about 215. If they didn't have 215. It was 189 or you went to
Super
275
heavies,
to
right?
heavyweight,
Yeah.
So it was one of those deals, and I probably should have done that. My senior year, my ego always getting in the way because we had one of the toughest weight classes in high school that year in states. And I was going to wrestle it, And
That's a man's weight class right there.
I had to get into it, and we were, and going to state, and I was going to win state championship. So, and now if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the best.
Yeah.
So that was my thought process. So we were just in that process there, and so everybody kind of the MAC was probably where I probably could have played. Interesting enough, I got Miami called me in. And I met Dan way back then.
Yeah.
He was the first strength coach, the father of it here. To ever think that I would come back and work for him or actually be where I'm at now is really amazing. But Miami, Bowling Green, Kent. Nobody wanted to play at Kent.
Right.
No matter how desperate you were at the time, back in my time.
Back in the day, it was not.
So it was just one of those deals, and everybody was like, "Yeah, we really like you as a preferred walk-on." When you heard that, it was like, "But," and the but,
Yeah.
you're about 30 pounds light, and we're just not sure if we can get that weight on you. And in my first year in college at Ashland, I put on 35 pounds.
Right.
So it was all there; they just didn't see it. So that was kind of the deal. So I ended up at Ashland. It was the only Division II in the state at the time. I mean, now we got all these other schools.
Yeah.
They weren't anywhere in the hunt when we were in the day, and it was nationally ranked. It was #1 defense in the nation for years and years. And Coach Gary Keller was my coach, and I had some just great people, and I didn't realize it in my own state.
Yeah.
And so I just ended up there. They gave me a scholarship. They gave me money, and you just kind of roll with it. And the people that I come across, and you've seen it. I mean, Ashland just athletically has all this stuff and has all these people, and it's the same as Miami. It's kind of shoved out in the middle of nowhere in this little town, and
that's what I was thinking to myself the whole drive down here. I said, well, Ashland's in the middle of nowhere too, so it's going to pop up somewhere.
The same thing, yeah. And so that's kind of how we ended up, or how I ended up with that, and I just tried to start gleaning information.
Yeah, it sounds similar. How old are you?
45.
Oh, so we're the same age.
Yeah.
1992 graduate.
Yep.
So I remember it was so hard. Kids today, all your information's at your fingertips as far as these universities. I was looking at trying to find a place to play football or do track, and I was like, well, University of Toledo is a Division I school. They probably have a great track and field program, but you don't know.
No.
You're just going by a sales pitch. So I remember showing up at the University of Toledo and sitting in the first football meeting, and they were recruiting me as a nose tackle, and I'm 5'11", 220 pounds, and I'm looking around the guys next to me, and I'm like, all right, so football isn't where I'm going to be because they're all giants,
Yeah.
So I went to the track meeting, and I remember the coach saying, oh, you threw 53 feet in high school, have you tried the 16-pound ball yet? And I had. I was like, yeah, I'm like high 40s right now, and his guy they're throwing there was this giant 6'4" guy who was throwing like 43.
Yeah.
So I'm psyched. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a scholarship. They weren't interested in offering me it because I was a midget. They weren't going to offer me anything. So, but it's so funny you mentioned that because you used to have to give tapes, or they would come and ask that your head coach for tapes, and and now they just
like coaches come in for recruit, and they'll tell me the name and they'll send it to me, and sometimes I'll have a link, but if they don't, I just Google a kid and all the video comes up, and it's that easy. And I'm just like, I remember when the internet started, so I remember when we were first typing in anything. If you messed it up at all, you never found anything on the web. So I guess that ages us a little bit when we start talking about it.
You made an interesting comment that Dan was the father of strength and conditioning coach here at Miami.
Yeah.
This isn't an old profession. I remember, and I don't know, was this even a profession when we came out of high school? I mean, maybe it was a few people, but
most of the time, I mean, we do know the process of Boyd Epley, and the process of professional ranks. I mean, Redskins and Jets, and had some people rolling around, and the profession itself is older than that. When you start talking from a European standpoint, when you start talking Americans, it just kind of wasn't a deal. There was somebody who, I mean, to sit back and think that probably in the 60s you still had coaches that were sitting there thinking, as a football player, you're going to be too muscle bound. You won't be able to play.
Yeah.
Not understanding at all how the human body works. So from our standpoint, I mean, Epley and them were making a few pushes, and they would do a better job of putting a linear ship of all those guys. But I mean, I see a lot of them and some old videos and stuff of just what they were actually doing. But when you start talking to profession, I mean, Dan was at the end of the 80s.
Yeah.
And he was getting it here. So if it was anywhere, it was going to be somewhere that had money to be able to invest in it. And most of the time it's probably part-time, and you were tied to football.
Yeah.
And
it's and I forgot, I don't know how I forgot Boyd Epley, but if you ever doubt the importance of a solid strength and conditioning program, just look at the downfall, I guess you would say, of the Nebraska Cornhuskers since the Boyd Epley era to now. And I'm sure their strength coach there is fine. He's probably great, but he was no Boyd Epley. Boyd Epley was something out of this world, and especially in that time frame, the best of the best.
Well, I think standard-wise, he understood what worked for him and what worked on getting the athletes to a certain point. And I don't know. There's so many gimmicks. There's so much stuff that's really out there. I mean, you Google any one word in something strength conditioning, and you'll get tons of videos that, just on a single leg squat, and there's 40 different variations if you don't put the right term in. So I think he had a purpose, a mentality. Plus, he also had the coaches around him who bought in and had a purpose and mentality, and I think they did something with it. I think we as strength coaches like to think that we have a lot more impact than maybe we do. I think being a really good athlete and recruiting a really good athlete in the position has more of the impact. But I think that where we come into play is fixing or helping problems that they may have had that held them back from being even better, or durability or those kind of things. I think that's where we really make a big impact. The other part is I think the inspiration to not quit and give up. Like for me, I mean, we always talk about here is speaking life into people around you. Do you want to go to work for somebody every day that you hate?
Yeah.
That, every day they're just degrading and crushing you, or do you want to go to work for somebody every day who inspires you to be more?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the path, and I think there's an inspiration factor that goes into it. I don't want to say that's our main job, because in the end we are doing our science base and how we do stuff, but there's an inspiration. And I mean, if you listen to Boyd and you listen to him talk, and at first he sounds kind of dry, and then all of a sudden he starts hitting on nuggets and stuff, and you're going, wow, there's some thought behind that.
Yeah.
And I think his presence probably had a lot of impact on young men. Like I said, there's people, when Judd walked in, you picked your heels up and moved at a different rate.
Yep. There's two. I've gotten the opportunity to hang out at Ashland. I've got the opportunity to hang out at Westside Barbell, and just be flies on the wall at both places. And I always talk about the environments of those two places, and how personally I feel the environment creates the athletes that come out of there. Yeah. They're both fantastic strength coaches, and they're putting their X's and O's out there, but the environments they create. But those two environments could not be any different from each other. So Judd comes in and he's about positivity and, motherfucker, we're going to get this done and let's go. And just ready to go. And Louis' people down there all live in this, like, they want to stab each other the whole time. They just don't want to lose to anybody or lose to each other. And I think Louis kind of, I definitely think he kind of fosters that more negative, environment, but they both get those same great results. And it's these weird, not weird, they're larger than life people who create this system that or create this environment that just creates champions.
Yeah, I've always taken it Louis' side of it. And it's funny, all my life being here in Ohio, and I mean, I've looked at a lot of his literature, and I've used parts of it, and never went to West Side and never walked in there. Mainly because I'm not driven by powerlifting, so it wasn't something I was over the top. I had to see it, but probably the mentality would have been the best part about
Yeah.
it. But you're right. I think it's a success or you run off in failure
Yep.
with your tail between your legs kind of mentality, and they foster that. Compete or die.
Yep. It's a Bulgarian system,
Our side of it, when you're outside people coming into that and you're paying for that and going into it, it makes a lot of sense, and you can do that because you've created a notoriety for it. Our side of it, if I did too much of that with a lot of our athletes, we're pretty thin as a staff, or we're pretty thin as a numerical number of athletes, and that would be hard on us to do it. And I'm still always going to be in that side of I want them to be hard-nosed and driven towards something, but I want them to actually have passion for it. Because when you have passion for it, I always tell them, and when you commit to it, I can take your head over and shove your head underwater, but I'm forcing it to you, and you may drown or whatever happens to you. But when I take you over to it and I show you the water and I tell you why the water is good for you and why you need to do that, and then you taste it and you go, oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get a whole lot more out of you.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Because you're passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your life. It's in your blood. That's my take on it. And I had coaches like that, and I had people invest in my life that way. And I just believe in that. I believe that I want it to be something that it courses through you. Because when it does that, then you're hard to beat.
Yeah.
Because you'll fight to the death, just like anybody else over here is fighting for their life in the other competitive arena, because it means something to you.
How much has being a wrestler your whole life affected you as a strength coach? Because every wrestler I know who lived and died by wrestling is a different human being. You just have this different brain than everybody else.
Yeah, it's like pole vaulters. I always say pole vaulters are there's something in a pole vaulter to go upside down on a high pole that may not hold up. There's something a little awkward about you. I think wrestling's that way. I won't say it must have been innate in me somewhere, but when I got started in it, I was a little soft, and you had to get it worked out of you. I realize I'm in third grade, but still, you had to get the softness out of you a little bit. But there's something in it. It's because it's that, we compete as a team, but you compete at that individual level, and it's so primal in its nature.
Yes.
You end up in these positions and you're holding what seems like hours to just get out of it enough to hopefully get 1 point. And that's your gratification for it. And, so there's so many things that come into it, and it's so explosive in one nature and yet so long, isometric grind, hold. And you have to do it over and over and over. And you end up in these moments where you're just by yourself, no matter who's yelling at you. You're by yourself at that moment, and you have to make the decision. I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
And or you give up, and those are probably the people who don't succeed well in it. And I think wrestling has a huge impact in how I decide on doing some of the stuff. I know I tell a lot of the kids they'll be in the middle. This is so hard. I'm just like, we've been going for 45 seconds.
Yeah.
You can suck this up a little bit longer, right? And so there's one moment where I have compassion, but there's other moments where I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My compassion for you over here, you had a rough life and upbringing. Okay, my non-compassionate side of it is you're tougher than that. You can get through this, right? If you were able to do this, you can do this, right? So, I think wrestling had a big impact on me.
Yeah, I've recently gotten into jiu-jitsu, and I wrestled from the time I was third grade till my sophomore year of high school, when I found the shot and discus, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be a 152-pound wrestler anymore, but came back to it with jiu-jitsu, and it's so, like you said, so primal, and you get into these positions where it is super frigging uncomfortable, and you just want to quit, and you want to get out of there, and you have to just, all right, control your breathing and figure out how to get back to a good position, and you don't panic. And I said I think grappling is a great life coach. It teaches you how to deal with situations way outside of grappling, and just figuring out, playing people like chess, and figuring out situations and not panicking, and being more zen and being in the moment and figuring stuff out.
Yeah, no, you're right. You have to be somewhat crazy in your mind that you're willing to go far enough to just allow yourself to collapse and pass out. They've cut off the oxygen.
Yeah, right.
And I've had that happen a few times. I'm in that spot, and I allow it to happen. Nobody normal does that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think about it at the time, but later on you're probably, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I did. Yeah, there's something to that. And to carry off in life, the funny thing is like I'll do things, and I'll bring it up. Ryan probably remembers it. I definitely all of my staff here. Before there was CrossFit and all this, general physical training has been around for a long time.
Yeah, right. We've all been doing CrossFit since the 80s.
Forever. So my side of it is that I do a thing with, I don't feel that men like to really truly plod along cardio-wise on ellipticals or machines or running out there. And so I do what's called something called mandio. Man cardio is what where we end up grabbing a certain amount of weight and you do it for periods of time. Yeah. Right? Probably some variants of Charles Staley's stuff at EDT training versus some mix of just general physical prep and all the stuff that goes to it. And so, like, one of them I'll have, it's, my main one I go to all the time is I have a 100-pound punching bag up there, and I pick it up my shoulder. And the only rule that I have is that whatever my time frame, so it's 30 minutes, 60 minutes, hour and a half, however long I have it, it never comes off my body and touches the ground. So that's my one rule, no matter where I'm going with it, right? And so, people ask, I have kids that, why do you still do that? I go out there and climb the stadium stairs nonstop. Just all I do is move it from one side of the body to the other. Sure. Hold it in different positions just when I'm exhausted, and make it happen. And I said, it's one of those things of committing to something and then finishing it. And it's really all it is. I've committed, I'm going to do it. Because there's a moment, and I tell them, I said, this happens to all of you. There's a moment that you're going to hit in that you're going to say, well, 15 minutes, I mean, that's a pretty good workout. I don't need any more than that. Or 20 or 25. And I set it always happens within about 5 to 10 minutes from when I'm going to finish, right? That it comes across my mind. I said, I'm not different than anyone else. And I said, I have to tell myself no. Yeah. I said, because that's where I'm actually working towards. I'm working to that point, right? And so we do these things, and that's just the way it was. And I started doing this stuff back when I was in high school and working. I just learned that process of being out on the wagon. It had to get done. I'm looking at a field, and it's 95 degrees and humidity's up here, and I have to get all those bales on it, and there's no one else. Yeah. And so that was the option, and it was just, you have to do it. My wife and I, we love to travel and get out, and I'm a mountain kind of guy. I told her she's domesticated me because I'd have a big, full, huge beard, and if I didn't marry her, and I'd be in some mountain somewhere. Yeah. And we'll get out on some of these really long hikes out in the places, and I'll push her to some areas that she probably doesn't want to go, but she does because she loves me. And we'll get out in these spots, and she's just like, she's like, I got to rest or something, and nothing against on her, and I just, I'm kind of bouncing around. She's not insane like the rest of us. Yeah, and I'll look at, she calls me a mountain goat. Yeah. And she goes, why is it you keep doing, or how does it, that? I said, well, at this point, we're halfway through the trek and we're out here. I said, our other option is we get lost out here, or we stay out here at nighttime and the coyotes eat us, or whatever, right? So we really don't have another option but to finish whatever it is we're doing. And that's always kind of been my mindset on that. And so, what's your philosophy on it with the kids coming in? Because personally, I think we need to build that in the kids, that kind of attitude where it's not just, okay, lay on the bench and do 10 reps of the bench or whatever, but it's stuff like that odd object lifting, that being able to be strong when your heart rate's going crazy and that kind of stuff. I understand that if you get maybe a discus thrower in, that's not going to be their primary focus, is that kind of stuff. But I like it for my athletes. I love doing that kind of stuff. So, we spend some time doing mandio with them, know. And my personal belief is I would love to do it with all my kids. Yeah. The reality of it is I'm going to look somewhat of how the sport and what the sport is calling for. How much I do have to weigh cost versus benefit on it a little bit. There are time frames that NCAA has given us. There are limitations. So, is that worth my time for what we're trying to do with it? If our team, I see there's a nice mental aspect to it. If our team is really struggling from a mental aspect, I definitely I think it's worth its time, and I'll throw some things in there. The other side of it is I have to be smart enough that I'm not standing in front of Doc and explaining to him why we had 3 kids with, some kind of issue to come out of that when we probably didn't have to do that. So those things I have to weigh a lot of that in there. I have to weigh a lot with my staff. My ultimate inside would be yes, I would love to do it with everybody, and I think they should do parts of it and you haven't lived until you've carried a 100-pound bag up and down a stadium stage.
I'm going to try it. I dig it.
Just try to sit it for 35 minutes and see if you can never put the thing down. And that's my side of it, but that doesn't mean that it fits into the model that we're doing. But I am with you on that. I would
see, and you're a wrestler from the '80s, so you watched Shoot climbing up the stairs with the log on his back, you know. So we've all done that one, you know.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's big time on that one.
Yeah, my wife's from Iowa. She'd never seen that movie before.
Oh, really?
Like, are you kidding me? You're from Iowa and you've never seen that before?
Yeah, especially that.
Yeah.
We're talking about one of the hardest nosed people of all time that came through Iowa. So.
When I look at the kids that I work with, and I have a hard time because all I used to train was junior high, high school, college athletes. And now I train more late 20s to 40-year-olds, which are usually pretty hard-nosed people. And I have an easier time motivating them to do these crazy workouts and to work really hard than I do with the younger kids. So I'm kind of pushing the younger kids onto my support staff because our personalities don't line up. And one of the things I want to talk to you about is the kids you're getting in now. Do you see, I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but I'm noticing a difference in mentality as far as that mental toughness that we're getting. And I don't know if you notice it at this level with these higher level athletes, but that's what I'm seeing with kids coming in where I've got to actually push mom away and take mom away to the side and say, you have to let him suffer. You know, he's got to get through this, you know. What are you seeing with kids coming in?
No, it's definitely a little bit of a change. Not always. I think there is some variance that happens there. I do have kids who are either uber, they did so much sport nonstop and they never took time off or did the right things in the right place to repair it. And so they're over the top, overtrained. And then I have the other side who are just, they'll get up off the couch just enough to do what they have to do, and then they're right back to the couch. What I do see, and again, you talk about not being an old person. You know, as the old song says, that radio killed the
video killed the radio star.
Yeah, that kind of mentality. I think digital life has killed the natural get outside and do things and be active and be aggressive to it. You know, or if they are, they're never off this. And they're just staring at their hand the whole time and texting and pushing. I have a hard time not erupting in my basketball locker rooms. And they're stretching and the guys are Snapchatting and they're actually video time with people in between before we go out on the practice or go out into the game. And I'm just like, what world am I living in right now? You know, I remember back, it was like, well, of course we had Walkmans, right? So we had in our ears and you're in the corner and you had your song. And then when coach came in and said, those are off, and then you sat in silence and you thought about what in the world you were going to do. So I struggle a little bit with that. And I think I don't know if it's mental toughness or it's a fact of lack of knowing that they're doing that. Lack of knowing that they don't know what they don't know. And I think that's probably more of it. Because you'll find times if you push them to the limits and you don't allow them off of it, they'll fight for you. So I think the innate ability's in there on some of these kids. I just don't think that it's been held that way. And I just think that they've kind of, they don't know what they don't know mentality. I mean, as dumb as that sounds, it is what it is with it. So I do have a wide variety of that. Sitting and videos have killed everything too. You know, we're dealing with all these dysfunctions that movement patterns within their knees, ankles, hips, and back. Just because they spend so much time in a posture that is poor.
They can't hinge.
Yeah, we're having a lot of issues with neck and upper backs that we never had when we were younger because of this. And so my cervical alignment is all out of whack on most of these kids. You know, and we're having to do a lot with them. So those are things that are probably more of the problem than the sake of them not being tough. They just, you know, and now we're in the age of everybody is smart or everybody is understanding because of the internet, but they're not really intelligent. They have knowledge, but they're not really truly smart, right? So I think that plays in that variable too, because they'll come back and they'll shoot at you. And it's very intelligent what they say, and you're like, "That's great, but, all this that you're telling me, you can't even do this over here.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to make you do that?"
Right.
Let's put 2 and 2 together.
I should be using bands on the bar and all this stuff, but you can't.
Oh yeah, They want these jumps and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, watch yourself squat. You're only squatting 145 pounds. Don't tell me you can do all that.
Yeah.
So
I'm amazed, and I blame it on the fact that we dropped physical education from schools in a real way.
I'm definitely behind you on that.
I can't get kids in that, and these are kids that are playing high level in their high schools as far as sports, but they come in and they can't jump rope, or they don't understand how to do a full push-ups or sit-up. Yeah, they can't. There's nothing. Things that I take for granted that a kid should be able to do when they come to the door, and now I'm having to be a gym teacher before I'm a strength coach.
Yeah, well, we've had every year. We're having it right now. I have ankle, wrist, elbow, small injuries that happen from a kid tripping and falling.
Yeah.
They don't know how to fall and roll out of it or do something.
Right.
They can't handle that. Ethan Reeves touched on this years ago, and I always loved his stuff, because he's an ex-wrestling coach, wrestling mentality and strength conditioning, and he used to, everywhere he went, he got old wrestling mats and put them in his weight room.
Right.
And he'd make these kids do tumbling and all that. And you got into some of the conferences, and coaches are kind of laughing about it. Why in the world do they have them doing gymnastics stuff? And I'm sitting there thinking, it makes perfect sense to me, and we didn't have any tie to being able to pull mats in here, so it's like, those are things that, now you laugh about it, but this is what we've come back to now. Every knot, everything is about functional training. Is all these prehab movements of holding positions and learning how to be primal and crawl like a bear, a dog, a cat.
Right.
They were hitting all these animals, and they were movement patterns that probably as wrestlers we always had to do. You had to do that. So those are things that having to reteach things like that, and you only have an athlete for 4 years.
Right.
Man, it's a lot to get done in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And the kids, you can't come down on them like a hammer like you used to, because then they're calling up mom or dad or the lawyer or somebody.
Yeah.
So
I honestly don't think I could. And I was a strength coach and a track coach for a high school for about 13, 14 years, and I don't think I could do it again. I don't think I could deal with parents being involved or shooting me a text message. I can't even imagine. The one kid who works for me is also a track coach, and he gets text messages from parents telling him how to do his job.
Yes.
It's like, I would flip out. There's no way I could handle that,
No, well, and I have variations of some parents who are in fitness, so to speak.
Right.
They're either they're training some people, or they're doing that, or they'll find something. And so on the days that they show up, they'll talk about stuff, and I have to be ready for it, because it's like, I know it's going to come in and they're going to ask these questions, and they always lead with, well, you're a college strength coach, you know what you're doing, I don't want to step on your toes.
Which is the universal sign for you don't know what you're doing.
Everything that was before butt was a middle finger.
Right.
It didn't mean anything. Everything after butt is what they really want.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. Those are, I deal with that. I had one this year that happened, and I don't want any names or anything. Get out with the kids, in case they were ever to hear this. But they thought that their son was doing way too much weight at 300-pound deadlift. And I'm like, they're a Division I athlete, and 300 pounds is not that much.
I got 20 women in my gym doing more than that.
Yeah, I really need them up in the 400s.
Yep.
500 would be great.
Yeah.
So that process is coming in there, and it's no shot on them. They're just looking out for the kids. But I'm on that flip side of it. This is, I've been going in the 21st year, 22nd, somewhere around there, years of being in this business. And high school side of it, when I worked in a private business, I was dealing with the parents all day.
Yeah.
College, there's HIPAA rules, and they're an adult.
Yeah.
And I don't have to tell you anything.
Wow.
And the only reason I do it is out of respect. Mm-hmm. I want you to be a part of our family, and I'll try to explain it to you.
Yeah.
But really, I'm not allowed to, and it's your son or daughter who needs to be telling you this.
Right.
But yet I've had more phone calls in this last couple of years than I've had ever in the thought. Well, they try to step around it. They don't come in harsh, but they come and say, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on this.
That's super ballsy.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, I can't tell you this.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give you a variation. your son or daughter needs to do this, and if you really are worried about it, then you'll tell them that they need to get their butt up and do this.
Right.
And they go, can't you tell them? Well, I do tell them. I can't hold it over their head like I used to.
Yeah.
They either want to do it or don't do it, right? So, yeah, it's probably not going to get any better. The more we become entitled.
I'm hoping we get a swing. I always talk about, you had the World War II generation who were these savages who went off and saved the world, and they gave birth to the baby boomers who drive me just as crazy as the millennials do, because there's an entitled, whiny group of people who bitch about everything. And then I think our generation, that Breakfast Club generation, was a little bit tougher and a little bit more aggressive and hard-nosed. And then you have this generation, which are all our kids. So this is all our fault that these kids are all screwed up. But I'm hoping we get a pendulum swing back to that. But my son, I've always said that I'm raising my son in the 80s. So, I said he's been lifting weights ever since he was able to walk, some form of, lifting a medicine ball onto the couch or whatever. But 14-year-old kid, super jacked, six-pack abs, super strong, spinning in the shot put, and so he's going to be a freshman next year, and they don't have enough kids for a freshman football team, so they want to move him not up to JV, they want to move him to varsity.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh God, please don't. He's 14. I don't want him playing varsity football, but I guess that's going to happen. But when he graduated, he's going to graduate from 8th grade this year. I went to the high school football coach and I said, hey, I'm willing to come here and just volunteer. I don't want to be paid anything, but maybe I can look at your program. Maybe I can help out. Maybe I can help with you some conditioning. They didn't want anything to do with it. No, we're not interested. And I was like, oh, well, just if you have any, here's my resume. If I actually had a real job, I would have a resume. But if you want to just pick my brain, just call me up. And he goes, well, we're really excited with how well Hayden's done in the weight room this year. And he hadn't been in the weight room once with them, I just shook my head and said, oh, well, good. I'm glad he's doing a good job in there. But yeah, it's.
I have a little bit when you're going down that, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I have a little bit on that process. That frustrates me is that our schools aren't seeing, and I realize money plays a role in it, but I think from a state level, when you start talking about things that the government should be in or not be in, when it comes to the overall well-being of a populace, okay, I believe that they should have a lot of say in it, when you start getting into it, versus if it's just little knick-knack things that bothers this corner of the world but doesn't really bother this corner of the world, right? That's one of them I think we start looking at. I know I realize that if I remember the ways that we went about training when I was in school, I was just like, it was so poorly ran, and it hasn't grown in the amount of years that I'm to it. We are getting a few of the richer schools that are starting to get strength coaches. But, I say to our administration all the time, I have coaches. This is the other reason we went to the model we went to, so the coaches weren't right over us anymore. Yeah. But that process is they're going, here's a profession that doesn't require them to be certified in anything that they do, right? We now force them to take AED, CPR stuff. Right. But they aren't going to do it. They don't pay attention because they know that they're going to have a trainer or a strength coach down there. I said, I have to go through at minimum have a bachelor's degree before I can even get my certification for this. I said, most of them want a master's, and I've got guys now who are going for PhDs and that kind of stuff. And I go, I have to keep up with the CEUs every single year. And I said, I'm being told by that dude that I have to do it this way. I said, that's why we had the injuries and the issues that happen on a national level. They shouldn't have had to happen. We shouldn't have deaths at that rate if we weren't doing that. And that's my fear in high school. I know their heart's in the right place because they want them to get better, but it's always about more weight, and the kid's in a bad position, and they're just loading and loading and loading.
They're doing the spotting thing now, which is the new trend that I'm seeing in a lot of these high school weight rooms, where they don't have a spotter stand behind you. They have the spotter stand on the side of you. He puts his hand on his lower back and his hand on his upper chest near his neck to make sure his back stays in the proper alignment, and then they squat together. And
he's choking him, man.
Right,
going up and down.
And then what if he drops the weight? How are you supposed to help him in any way, And but I'm seeing like videos, like there's like 3 high schools in our area doing that kind of stuff. And my son is, like I said, he's been around this for a long time, and they screwed up his percentages. They wanted him to do his bench, like 70% of his bench press max on his military press, and he was like, Coach, I can't do that. There's, I can't lift that much
Mathematically,
weight.
that
Right, it doesn't work. So I said, just be safe. You know what you're doing. Just be safe. Don't do anything dumb. So.
No, I'm definitely with you on that. I watch, and every time a video will come around, and it always ends up on my email at some point. I'll end up with watch this high school and this coach in the background and what they're doing. And here's a kid has been over and he's 400-pound good morning.
Yeah.
Knees are knocking together and all over, and the coach is screaming and jumping, and they get it, and they're all high-fiving. And I'm just sitting there thinking, this poor kid. One, he didn't get hurt there. He's going to be hurt. I guarantee he's going to feel it in his back for the next week.
Yeah. And if not now, eventually.
Yeah, somewhere down the road he's going to feel it, and that's all coming. And that's coming downhill. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be getting that kid, and then we won't have to deal with him here. And he's got 4 bulging discs. And
Coach, why are you making me squat 135 when I can do 450? Here's the video of it.
Yeah. So those are the things that I'm with you on that. I have a real problem with that. I wish they would do something. That's probably my biggest thing coming out is either one of two things. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So that at least can work and mold.
Yep.
Or really back the weights off and start to look at the progression of how the athlete is moving. Are they moving better? Are they more explosive?
Yeah.
Can they get into positions or get in a bad position on the athletic field and still come out of it okay?
Yeah.
And a lot of times they didn't take a whole lot of load to be able to do that. You'll be amazed. I mean, we've had kids, and we've always joked about here. I've had some athletes who they were just. I had a guy once who front squatted 515 for 5 reps.
Jeez.
That is incredible amount of weight.
Yeah.
And bench press 455 for a couple reps. He was all that. And he looked like he was on roller skates when he was on the football field.
Yeah.
Dudes are pushing him all up and down the field. All right. So strength isn't always it. Where I've had it, I had an offensive lineman, and I'll throw his name out there because he's still in Ohio. He's working with the equipment guys down in Columbus.
Good
Todd
company.
Londot.
Yeah.
And he was just. When Ben was here, and he's center, and I remember watching him get hit kind of from the side and down where he had a guy locked out. He ends up on one knee, one position, bear crawls, and then pushes himself back into a standing position and pushes the guy out of position, and running back scores, and you're like, that's talking about total body strength and that. And if Todd were to come in here, he was a mid 400, maybe 500-pound squatter. I mean, it's not huge.
Right.
The nature of if you're talking the strength world as a football player, man, he was physically amazing. The things he could do. So those kind of things is trying. I want more of those guys, and gals, right? Than I do just the dude who can load 800 pounds on his back and squat it. And you might be good for us. You might not be good for us.
Right.
So, but
What is the what are the upper limits you need? I mean, 500-pound, 400-pound squat is pretty darn good if you're a big giant lineman guy. I mean, how much more do you need? Do you need to be an 800-pound squatter? I don't know if that's.
You may need to run faster. You may need to be able to get out into a lateral position better. That's been our biggest debate here as we're coming down to it. And the old model was because it was, you can qualify what it is I'm doing. I'm tracking it, right?
Yeah.
So I can see a progression, a linear progression. And so the coaches wanted it was always the big 3. I don't know how we decided the bench press, the squat, and the power clean were the primary numbers to it, or maybe a deadlift gets thrown in there. They have variations of helping, but I would be really excited on what is my lateral squat for my right and left leg into a 45 angle lunge, into a back lunge or something like that. Those things probably mean a little bit more to me. Really.
We're talking about athletic performance on the field.
Yeah, so there's a big difference there. So we're debating now, and what's really been interesting is, back squat used to be the pinnacle of it, and I've had so many dysfunctions with how kids, and I'm old school, if you remember the old day of what true core means, and that would be through your upper back into your midsection, into your hips. I have kids that now that, to me, the back squat is really a higher end movement pattern. I start everybody off with front squats and moving front squats because it gets them in a better posture. And if you're not in that posture, you lose the weight.
And you don't need anybody spotting you. You can just get away from it.
We'll have somebody in there a lot of times when we're bumping at the elbows because most of the time they collapse in their upper thoracic. They're just not strong enough to hold it. And our biggest thing is dealing with, is correcting hip dysfunction, and then when we're talking about abs or any kind of in the back and torso, I call it, a trunk development versus upper back. I mean, I have to delineate that because core just gets thrown around. too much, and this is what truly we're looking at. This is the core of their body.
Right.
And this is where I always tell them it's the process of having elephant legs and gorilla upper body, and I got a toothpick between the two
Right.
of them.
Yeah.
And
Nothing
I'm hoping
connecting.
it doesn't break.
Yeah.
You know, and we're trying to fix the break area.
We use goblet squats
Yep.
so often because kids, again, can't squat. They either do a good morning or they don't come anywhere near parallel. For some reason, if I put a dumbbell in their hands, their chest stays up. They can usually squat down and come up. So, I mean, we've had kids on goblet squats for 3 months before they even look.
Yeah.
But that's our next progression is always to the front squat.
Yeah, and I got certain sports now where we don't even go to the back squat, and I don't have a problem with it because I feel like I'm doing such a wide variety. I mean, if I can get most of my females to be mid 200s to a 300-pound front squat,
That's
I'm pretty
solid.
excited. It really is
Super
good.
solid,
And how
yeah.
much more do I need out of that? My males, my basketball guys, I do back squat because they are incredibly painful for me to sit here and argue with them for
Right.
hours at a time about why the bar has to rest on the front of them and it hurts. And
Yeah.
they already are a weird squatting group as it is
Yeah.
anyway. So, but I do variations of back squats, and I still make them do, like, every time we warm up, they have to warm up with front squats, which they get mad at me
Right.
about. But that way, my internal life lives better on that. But so yeah, I just see the progression better. I see,
Yeah.
and we're all about trying to step back and find the progressions because there ought to be a progressive way and a regressive. And you may end up with all of it in the same workout with a bunch of kids. I got 4 kids doing front squat, 4 of them doing goblet, 4 of them doing single leg, split leg squat
Yep.
because we have some kind of issue, dysfunction from right to left. So unilateral is not on. So how's that going to help me over there?
Yeah.
Even I'm not a huge leg press. We have 3 of them, but I will do it for a lot of unilateral stuff, and then get into press even. And
Right.
then try to move that into. Usually, if we do a heavy leg press, and I make them go over and do bodyweight squats right after, so at least get the feel of
figure it out.
what
Yeah.
the movement is. So, it's the times have changed a little bit from when it comes to that. Plus, everything was taught in the powerlifting. I do a
Yep.
lot with Kabuki and Duffin's way of sitting between the heels, which I've always thought. I love the postural stuff of being
I've come
very
more
tall.
into that.
Powerlifting has its point. If I'm going to be low, hips back because I'm trying to go the shortest distance. I don't want
Yeah.
the bar clip here in that position. As an athlete, I want in that position because we need to be long.
Yeah, I've come around to that way of thinking a lot more, and also the way he talks about
The rooting
into
Yeah.
the ground and spreading your fingers like they're talons and or your toes like they're talons and he has some interesting stuff.
We got a bunch of kids that are trying to do it without shoes, and I just can't do it from like our doc was in here today, and
Yep.
we got a bunch of football guys who are down there, and I said, all it takes is one dumbbell hopping funny, and it's on a toe.
Yep.
So it's one thing if you're lifting in your weight room by yourself.
Well,
or
that's
you're
how
in
I
the
lift.
corner
I
and
lift
you-
barefoot.
Yeah, you can do it. Boy, I got a bunch of stuff going on. It's going around, and all I need is to have a fractured toe and have to explain that
Yeah.
one when we. The shoe is as thin as it may be. It does give some protection, and so we do.
It's just
we
from
have to play that
legal
world.
cover your butt protection.
There's things that we have to do with that, and so I always watch the people and they're doing the whole talk with, "Oh, we got to do everything barefoot and get back to it." I get you, and I understand that.
Yeah. But it's a different situation.
Yeah, and so if you can pull it off where you're at, great.
Yeah.
Can't.
I've got a kid going to the Air Force Academy this year, and he's got to learn to squat in shoes now because he's been squatting for 2 years barefoot. He's like, man, they told me I had to wear shoes. I'm like, yeah, I could have told you that was going to happen. You're not going to go to a U.S. military academy and having you squat barefoot. That's just not going to happen.
Especially when the drill sergeant pulls you out and wants you to run.
Yeah.
Well, wait, let me get my shoes.
Right.
Nope.
You're screwed now. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you for having us out. I think this has been great. And I want to wish you luck here. I think you got a great thing going and a beautiful facility. And I'm really glad that Malcolm hooked us up together.
No, yeah, he came down, and we've been trying to hook up for a while, so it was good when he came down, and I was really thankful from an email standpoint you reached out. I don't do a whole lot of stuff. I'm not much of a self-promoter.
Yeah.
My job's my
That's
job, and I
probably
enjoy
a good
it.
thing. Let people come to you.
Yeah, I enjoy my job, and so this has been fun. It's nice to talk, and I like how you do it. It's just we talked a bunch of topics
Yeah.
that were around it, but it was just random stuff from being old guys.
My
I
wife
guess.
always yells at me. I'm supposed to be getting. You're Mark Coleman.
Yes.
So he just agreed to do the podcast. I'm trying to hook up with him to do it. She's like, you can't do it the way you normally do it. You have to have like a list of questions for him. I'm like, man, I don't think I'm going to do it that way. I think I'm just going to do it the way I always do it. And,
Yeah.
you know,
It's your show. You can do what you
you'll
want,
learn
right?
about the person and then ask them questions that interest you. You know, what the heck? All right, but so I would love to do this again sometime, and
It would be fun. I would
we'll get
enjoy it.
together. And,
Appreciate it.
All right, this has been The Refined Savage. See ya.